The realtor has it listed, he puts it in the MLS. I'm representing a buyer who's interested in making an offer on this house. Okay, been there, done that. Watch this. True story. Make an offer on a house for a client, and we go back and forth and back and forth. The company handling this transaction for the bank is being extremely difficult. The listing agent, meanwhile, is not even able to talk to anyone. You see, all he gets to do as the listing agent of a foreclosure listing is to log into the REO's website. So they made it extremely difficult. Ultimately, after going back and forth, counter, we ended up at mutual acceptance on a price. The listing agent calls me up and says, "We've got acceptance." I said, "Great. Send me the counteroffer that my client sent you. I assume you have your client's signature on that." No, he says that we don't have anything like that. That's not the way my client does business. So what the other agent, the listing agent, was telling me is that he wanted me to draft his client's counteroffer and then take it to my clients and get their signature. But then the listing agent calls me up and says, "Hey Chuck, there's one more thing. My client has an addendum that they told me they're gonna send, and we have to have that addendum signed before we have mutual acceptance." I said, "Okay, fine. Send me the addendum when you have it." All right. When I got the addendum, it was about 11, 12 pages long, and I briefly read through it. Now, having been an attorney, I can tell you that this addendum was not drafted by an attorney. It was a cut and paste thing with some standard boilerplate clauses, but it also had a lot of unbelievably ridiculous clauses that nobody in their right mind would sign. I kid you not, one of the clauses in this addendum that the seller was requiring, now this is not a lender, this is not a bank, this is the seller that's requiring this. They had a paragraph in there that would have given them permission to all of my clients' financial information, bank account numbers, checking account numbers, investment accounts. Just shocking that a seller would ask for that kind of information. And this was some little entity on the East Coast that none of us had ever heard of before. In this day and age where there are so many breaches of security and identity theft, my clients certainly were not willing to give all of their personal financial data, all of it, to this little entity that they never knew of and who had no business asking for their financial information. That information was between my clients, the buyers, and their loan officer and their bank and underwriter, not the seller. So my clients, and there were about a dozen terrible clauses like that, my client said, "There is no way that we can sign this addendum. This would be the foolish, most ridiculous thing we ever did." Well, I explained to the listing agent, my clients can't possibly sign that addendum. And he said, "Well, I've talked to my clients, and the only way they'll sell the property is if your clients sign that addendum." There really is chaos in the market. Now, let's come back to this morning's trustee sale. I have a client who's interested in the property. I go there and see what happens. Nobody bids on that property. My client had not given me a cashier's check to bid on that property, so I was just there to observe. The property then is going to go back to the bank, right? So I say to the gentleman who handled the trustee sale, "By the way, do you know who I can contact about buying that property?" He says, "No, I don't. I just work for this company that handles these sales, and they do the paperwork." I said, "Yeah, I understand that." So I get a copy of the notice of trustee sale, and on the bottom of the copy of the notice of trustee sale is the name of the person who handled the foreclosure. And I call that person and get her on the phone. And I say, "Hi, I'm Chuck Burundi, and I'm a real estate broker out in Sequim, Port Angeles. I attended the trustee sale this morning. One of your properties are foreclosed on. I've got a client who's interested. Can we talk about that? My client would like to buy it." And long pause. She says, "Why are you calling me?" And I said, "I'd like to get in touch with with the bank or whoever's handling this, whoever has authority to sell it. She says, your client can't buy this property until it goes through the process and is listed with the realtor and back in the MLS. And I said, well, I understand that process, but there is somebody who has authority to sell this property, and my client's ready, willing, and able to write you a check, or at least to write a check to your client. And I just want to track that person down. She says, I have no idea who that person is. And I was trying to get a little bit of, she works for somebody. And ultimately, she works for the seller. And she says, I don't know who that person's name is. I don't know who owns it. She says, I don't know what their phone number is, and I have no contact information. She said, your client has to wait until it's listed and put back in the MLS. This is the kind of insanity that's going on in the foreclosure market. So I have a client who wants to buy a property, and we cannot find a human being on the face of the earth who can tell us who can sell this. You've got to find some humor in these situations or you'll just die. But my client really wants this property. Now, you say, why didn't she have a cashier's check at the trustee sale? Aha! The bank is supposed to have the amount that will take to buy this property a long time before the trustee sale. As an attorney, when I did foreclosures, somebody could call me up at any point, months before the foreclosure sale, and say how much will be owed on that, and I could just look at it and see the balance and calculate the accrued interest and tell them. In this case, believe it or not, this company that handled the foreclosure did not release the amount owed until the afternoon before the trustee sale. There was no time for my client to get the money together. She had no idea what the balance was going to be, or how much was going to be owed, or how much was going to be required to bid at the sale at a minimum bid. So you have to just sort of marvel at this whole bureaucratic process. We've got banks that are foreclosing. Nobody knows who they are or how to contact them. You've got buyers who want to buy properties, but they're overpriced and they can't make an offer because nobody will accept the offer. When it's listed and put in the MLS, they make it impossible to sell. Is this not absolutely amazing? Talk about catch-22 situation. It's an extraordinary, chaotic situation. Now, what's also amazing is that our politicians don't understand this entire process that I just explained. They really don't get it. Very few people in the mortgage business understand the dilemmas and where the pitfalls are here. Notice that at each point in this process of foreclosure, each of the organizations, each of the people involved in their steps in the process disavow knowing how to contact anybody else. They just say, no, this is what I do, I don't know anything else, and I don't have any phone numbers, and I don't know who to contact. You just have to, it's crazy. It's really crazy. So, as I have said before, if you want to buy a foreclosure, good luck. Good luck. Really good luck. Because the chances of you actually being able to buy that property are well, they're not very good odds. If you really want to find a property in a nice location and be able to negotiate with a real human being who can sign an agreement with you, then you probably just want to go in the MLS and look for homes that are listed by the owners. I kid you not. This is where some of the best prices are, some of the best, most beautiful homes in the best locations. Many of these foreclosure homes that I'm seeing have been stripped of light fixtures inside and out and a lot of damage. But apart from that, it's chaos trying to buy one. Chuck Marundi, sharing tips with you on the foreclosure process.